Welcome to the podcast, Catch It, A New Perception. My name is Katuk. The name of this podcast being Catch It, A New Perception. I want everyone to be able to catch a new perception of themselves, of the people around them, of their situation, of your entire being. Can you catch a new perception today? And when you do get a new perception, when you're able to catch on to a new perception, what does that mean? Does it better your life? How much is your life improved because your perception is continuing to change? Not to what it was yesterday, what it is today. How much does your perception of yourself change? What is your perception of yourself? The essence of who you are and how you perceive yourself and what you think that you are. How much is valid? How much is true? How much is real? How much is it the way that other people see you? Is your perception the same as someone else's? So in asking this, what I'm wondering is your perception valid to what others' perception of you is today? Their perception of you, your perception of you. How do you see the things inside of you? How do you portray what you see inside? Do you still look at yourself and perceive yourself by your intentions? Use the word judge, for lack of a better term. Do you judge yourself on your intentions? And yet the people around you, are they judging you on your actions? They're not able to judge you or have a perception of you by your intentions. Your intentions are good. Your words don't come out quite as good. Your actions don't even match up to your words, and your words don't come close to your intention. So your perception of yourself may be on your intentions. You want to do a good job. You intend to do a good job. And you have disdain for people around you. You think they're not as good as you. They don't measure up. They don't do what you do, because what you do in your mind is your intentions. It's not your actions. You judge yourself. Your perception of yourself is you plan to do a good job. Although you don't do that good of a job, other people's perception of you is different at that point. How do you change that and create a perception of yourself that is valid to the way that other people perceive you? Now, sometimes you may show up in a certain place in a different way than what you do somewhere else. And someone says to you, well, you're different here than you are there. Which one is phony? Because something's not real. And you realize that you show up in a certain way at your job. You do your job in a certain way, and you do it to the best of your ability in that environment to show up how you need to. Outside of your job, you appear to show up much differently, although it is just as real to who you are. Now, that's someone else's perception of you, and you know that you show up differently both times, because at one you show up to the best of your ability to be able to do the job that you need to do to the best of your ability, because you can't be as vulnerable as you would be in another situation in life. There are certain times where I am more vulnerable and I'm able to be more vulnerable because of who's in front of me, the situation at hand. Then in other situations in my life, being that vulnerable would do none of us any good. It's like knowing when to be private. Private doesn't mean holding secrets from everyone in the world. It means knowing who to tell what story to about who I am or what I do. In another situation, I may tell another part of the story because I can be more vulnerable or I need to be less vulnerable. Now, does my perception of myself change? No, I'm the same person the whole time. Do you realize that you change to the environment or the people you're around or the business that you do? You change. Are you conscious of it? Does it fit with your morals and values? Or do you believe that, inside I'm really always the same, so you are not conscious? Your perception of yourself is not valid because you think that you're the same in every single situation you're in. I need to be able to change depending upon the environment I'm in. When I show up in one place, I can't be the same person I am in another place. Does the perception of myself change? No, because I know who I am. I know how I'm showing up here. I know how I need to put a face on for these people to be able to do this job so that I can go and be more vulnerable in my real life. Whatever that might be. I'm using this as an example because I think it's something that maybe someone or a group of people can relate to. And what is it that you do that changes your perception of yourself? What is the perception that you have of yourself? How do you see yourself? And is that valid? Is that what you want to show people all of the time? Do you believe that having disdain in a certain situation is going to serve you best? And that is the perception that you have, is that you're going to have some type of disdain, or you're going to show a certain emotion or not show a certain emotion in an instance. Is that how you want to perceive yourself? Is that how you want others to perceive you? How do you want to show up? Is that how you're showing up? Do your words match your actions? Do your words and actions match your intention? Do you know that when you walk into a situation that you need to make a different approach, so therefore people are going to perceive you different? They may think that you're putting on something that's not real, when actually you're protecting yourself from being overly vulnerable, because that's not necessary in this situation. So you may be able to be joking a little more, making people smile, allowing people to laugh, enjoy themselves. And if you were more vulnerable and maybe more sensitive, you wouldn't be the same person in that environment. So this perception that you have of yourself or that you have of others or others have of you, is it valid all the way through your life? Do you know how you show up? Do you have the perception of yourself that you want to carry in each situation? Is it a valid perception? Is it a misperception? Do you have a misperception of yourself? Or do you have a valid perception knowing that you change? Some people may use the terminology being a chameleon. Is that a negative thing or is that a positive thing? Do you use it to mask who you are, to mask your feelings? Do you use it to mask things so you don't have to face them or deal with them? Or do you do it to be able to make the whole situation more comfortable, easy to deal with, knowing you're truly not masking anything? What is your perception of yourself in every situation? Within your home? What is your perception of yourself in your place of employment? If you're self-employed, what is your perception of yourself when you're dealing with people? When you're in public? When you're dealing with people you casually know? Whether that happened to be the hygienist at the dentist office or whether that happens to be a clerk at the checkout counter or whoever that may be that you know casually. Do you realize the perception that you have of yourself in that situation? And is that how other people perceive you in those situations? What about in your home? The people that you live with? Or if you live alone, what is the perception of yourself when you're in that environment? And do you put an entire mask on to be able to walk out into public and go deal with people, to go to work or to go to some social event? Do you have to put a mask on? Or do you just move through it with a little different perception of yourself because you see yourself different when you're in public and you have a different perception of yourself than you do when you're at home, alone, with family, with your parents, with your kids, with your spouse, with your significant other, whatever that may be? How do you see yourself? What is it that's important about the perception of yourself? What is it that you want to change about your self-perception? The best way to change the way that you see yourself is to begin to think different about yourself, and then you will see yourself different. The best way to think different about yourself is to take a different action. To take a different action, you will begin to think different. When you think different, your entire perception of yourself will be different. How you see yourself, how you feel about yourself will be different. When you take a different action, begin to think different, your entire world will change. It may be subtle, it may be grand. You have the option to be able to change these things. When you change your perception of yourself, it is highly likely that others' perception of you will change. You can make it anything you want to. You can make that perception that other people have of you great and wonderful, or you could take it to the opposite end. It's all up to you and the path that you choose today, the journey that you're on. How do you want to see the world? How do you want to see yourself? How do you want to see others? How do you want that perception to be? Be honest with yourself. Take an action that's good for yourself. Begin to think good of yourself in every situation, and you will be happy with the perception of yourself at the end of the day, at the end of the week, and the end of the year. Looking forward to next time. Live in harmony with and use the bounty of the land to bring kindness to the world.